さんこんにちは。フィリピンアセットコンサルティングの家村です。今日はですね、AB キャピタル証券さんにですね、お邪魔してまして、このフィリピン株のね、魅力についてですね、いろいろね、深掘りして聞いてみたいと思うんですが、今日ね、ちょっとゲストとしてですね、お招きしているのはですね、AB キャピタル証券の、セールスのね、トップの、でバイスプレゼントですね、のジェフさんです。今日はよろしくお願いします。Thank you for joining our video.
Hello, Thank you for having me this afternoon.
Thank you. ということでね、ジェフさんはね、毎週このウィークリーラップアップにもね、出ていただいているんで、皆さんはね、おなじみの方もいらっしゃるかと思いますが、今日はですね、ちょっとね、いろいろ私の方からですね、ジェフさんに質問をして、それでちょっとね、答えていってもらおうかなと思っております。それではですね、今日ね、いろいろちょっとフィリピンのね、株とか証券取引のことね、よくわかる皆さんにね、お伝えできるように、いろいろ質問していきたいと思います。最初のね、質問がですね、じゃあフィリピン株ですね、これの魅力って何なんでしょうというね、シンプルな質問をまずしてみたいと思います。Okay, first question is, could you tell us about the attractiveness of the Philippine stock market?
Okay. Thank you very much once again, Hitoshi-san, for this chance to talk about the Philippine stock market. Let me start off by saying that this is a very good time. Of course, we always hear that it's a good time to start investing in the Philippine stock market, but I think we are, especially for new investors, they are coming at a time when prices are really low. I think we only need to look at this chart, this graph, to show what I'm talking about. So the blue line is your Philippine Stock Exchange Index. Currently, when I made this graph about a day ago, it was at 6,457. And
OK、じゃあちょっとね、I explain. OK。はい。ということで、魅力ね、これからちょっと詳しく説明してます。まず、今ね、株価がやっぱり歴史的に見てね、すごく安いね、ということなんで、今からね、始めるのにはいいチャンスじゃないかということで、ちょっとこちらのグラフの方をね、説明していただくんですけども、このグラフが、青い線がいわゆるフィリピンのですね、PSEI ってフィリピンの指数ですね、総合指数。日本でいうと、日経225みたいなね、アメリカで言えばダウね、そういうやつですね。で、こっちの線が PER ですね。はい。はい。Please.
So this is what you see here is that the index is here at 6437, which if you look back about 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
The 6,400.
The price is 8 years ago.
It was already at 8 years ago. But what's interesting here is that this is the PE ratio, and you will notice that all throughout those 8 years, earnings in the Philippine stock market continue to grow because GDP continued to grow. But the price went up and then of course consolidated and is now back there. So much so that the price to earnings is now at about 13 times.
Okay, thank you. です。これこの2つのね、インデックスのグラフとそのあれですね、PER なんですけども、これ見ていただくと大体価格がですね、今の価格大体8年前のね、8年前の価格に戻っちゃってるんですね、そもそもね。で、それに対して、じゃあフィリピンのね、企業の利益が8年前のね、水準に下がったかというと、そういうことじゃなくて、フィリピンの企業の利益がね、上がっているので、結果ですね、この PER っていうこれはですね、なんですかね、1株、PER って1株当たり利益と株価が何倍になってるかっていう指標なんですけど、だから高ければ高いほど割高で、低い数字だと割安なんですけど、これ見てみると PER がもう、これ13 times
About
13倍ぐらいで、非常に低い状態、つまりかなり割安だということがね、このグラフから分かるということです。
So this is how we're going to start the presentation, and I'm going to show you how attractive the Philippine stock market is, especially when viewed on a 3 to 5 year investment horizon. So I think that for everyone to understand first where we are, where we come from. So this is the line is the performance of the Philippine Stock Exchange Index every year from 2003 to 2020 for a 19-year history. The gray line is the growth in earnings.
The growth of earnings?
Of earnings. Okay. Earnings per share.
Earnings per share. earnings per share. Okay.
growth.
はいはいはい。
And this is the growth in PE, which is an increase or a decrease.
I see. はい。わかりました。じゃあ、can I explain that?
はい。
はい。で、このグラフもちょっと詳しく説明してもらいますけど、このグレーのラインが、earnings per share とか、一株当たり利益がどれだけね、プラスマイナスになってるかっていうですね。だから、この直近で言うとプラスなわけですね。それに対して、この肌色、オレンジ、これのですね、PR が上がってるか下がってるかっていうね、そういうグラフですね。はい。
It's like the yin and yang in Japan. Wherein, what I would like to highlight here is that you would see that the growth in the stock market is much better if it's driven by the growth in earnings. There would be times wherein the growth in the index, in the stock exchange, is driven by earnings. Sometimes it could be driven by both. Or like here in 2014, it was primarily driven by the growth in PE. Growth in PE as well, rather than earnings. So today, what we need to find out is that will earnings continue to grow moving forward, so that the growth in the stock exchange is more stable compared to if it's just the.
Alright, those would be 2022, even if the earnings per share is going up, but the PR down.
Yes, that's very good, Hitoshi-san, because for this one, you will notice that 2020 and 2021, because of the pandemic, it went down by as much as 45% earnings, and it recovered by as much as 60% in 2021. It's almost flat on a 2-year perspective. So in 2022, sentiment is down because of the dollar. Because of the strength in US dollar, making Philippine stocks and other emerging markets unattractive.
ね、今、こういうことで、だから企業利益は上がってるんだけど、株価の方は PR が下がってるという状態で、主にメインリーズンについて、the peso depreciation against US dollar,
about 11%, weakest in Asia.
11% down
11%
from the start of the year.
From the start of the year is 50.99. Today it's about 57.7.
やっぱり為替の影響が大きいっていうところですね、一つはね。
So what you can see here is that since earnings didn't grow so much, so after the good years up until 2012, you will see that earnings just stabilized, and because of that, the Philippine stock exchange was very volatile as well. So going back to this chart earlier, going back to the slide earlier, that's why the market didn't do much, but it got cheaper because earnings continued to grow. Okay. So to make a long story short, this is how given the attractiveness of the Philippine stock exchange, we have here 3 scenarios at which the Philippine stock market can go over the next 2 years. We are here in 2022. So it was at 6,438, and these are projections based on 13 times, 14 times, and 15 times price to earnings ratio. What I would like to show here is that the weakest one, the cheapest at which the Philippine
today's price, this is too low, right? So it sounds 6,430 today. Big drop today.
Big drop 2 days ago. Today it's much lower, 6,330.
Oh really?
So it's getting more attractive. It's getting more attractive.
You have this scenario. 3つのね、シナリオ。今日っていうかね、ここが今ね、ここなんですけど、ここからのね、シナリオ、今3つありますよと。Brightest scenario, middle scenario, and lowest.
13 times, the reason why I use 13 times PE is because that's normally the level at which the index is considered cheap. There is a projection that we use, and that is compared it to bond yields, which is currently at 6.75%.
Okay, firstly, what is it? Okay. Say it again, please.
Normally, especially when interest rates are going up, the attractiveness of equities is compared against the yield that is being offered by bonds. Here in the Philippines, the current 10-year bond yield is at 6.75%.
6.75 ね。はいはい。で今はだから金利が上がってきてるんで、フィリピンの国債が 6.75% になってきてるんで、so maybe investor have an attraction for the bond,
yes,
bond rather than equity.
That's the question now. So at which point we're in an investor like you, Hitoshi-san, me as your financial advisor, I'll give you two options. Either you invest in a bond that is not as risky as equity compared to equities. The yield is 6.75%. Or how about equities? And then you will ask me, how much will I get from Philippine equities? At current levels, you can make an equivalent of 7.5%.
Okay, how do you calculate it?
That's 1 over 13.
1 over
13, which is 13 times.
13 times. Now 13 times.
Today, 6438, it's about 13.3 times.
3.3 PER ね。今 PER が 13.3 倍。
Right?
Yeah.
So at 13 times, which is a conservative multiplier, you are getting Philippine equities at 7.5% equivalent yield.
なるほど。そうすると今のこの水準でいくと大体株式のリターンは 7.5% per annum。
7.5%.
So,
theoretical.
theoretical ね。ということなんで、理論的にはね、国債よりも利回りが高いと。
So if that's the case, because EPS earnings will grow next year, we assume 10%.
10% growth?
Yes, which is very conservative.
So could you tell me what is the assumption of the three scenario?
This one is 14 times.
これ14倍。
はい。And the green one is 15 times.
15 times. This is 13 times.
That is 13 times.
PR の倍数で、なんですかね、コンサバティブなシナリオと、いいシナリオと。
So at the conservative 13 times, the growth next year on the index will just be about 2% at 13 times. But if peso stabilizes or even strengthens, then I think the multiplier should be 40 and maybe at least 50.
だからフィリピンペソが今ずっと US ドルに対してちょっと値下がりして 10% 近く値下がりしてるんですよ、年初から。それが安定してくると、こっちのいいシナリオにね、移っていくんじゃないかっていうのが、ジェフさんのですね、意見ですね。So even if the most conservative scenario next year, 6,608. Like the day after next year, 7,000.
Still at 13 times. Just earnings is growing.
Historical PSEI PR. What is it?
Very good question. It's at 16.4 times.
16.4.
That's
10 year?
It's about that's a 17-year period.
過去17年間のこの PR の平均は 16.4 倍なんで、今の13倍っていうのはね、安いですし、その一番安い、一番コンサバのシナリオでいって、これぐらい上がっていくっていうね、そういうことです。ですから見に行ったらnow is a good time to buy.
It is. Normally, Philippines would trade at 10 times, but that is a crisis level.
Yes. なんで10倍っていうのはね、もうクライシス危機レベルなんで、13.3 も安いんですけど、やっぱり16倍、17倍ぐらいね、普通に為替とかが安定してくればね、なってくると。はい、Thank you.
So for that, for the growth, we will just have to look at it will all depend on what the Marcos administration will be doing. So what it shows you here is the growth per administration. So the average during Ramos administration was 3.18%.
ラモス政権の時は 3% ね、GDP 成長。はい。
Very good because he actually liberalized a lot of things. The banking industry,
3.18
but only 3.18%.
ラモスね。
During the time, savings of Filipinos weren't really big. Savings. Money in the bank and money of Filipino people weren't big yet because OFW remittances started to come in. Let me show you the slide. OFW remittances only started to come in.
そうなんだ。これは OFW のね。
2000.
ここから OFW ここからなんですね。この辺は低くて伸びたのは2002年ぐらいだね。OFW remittance getting bigger.
Only started in 2002.
This is Ramos.
Ramos era was 1992 up to 1998. 2000 to 2002 was ERA. Joseph Estrada. And then from 2002 up to 2010, that is GME. Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. So during the time, those were the best years in terms of growth for Philippines. That was here when we were hitting 6.5, 6.52. But the average during the time was only 4.34. That was during GME's time.
の時はだから平均上がったり下がったりで平均して GDP 成長 4.3% ですね。ラモスさんの時は 3.1。
And all the good things that President Ramos and President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo did, they increased the savings of Filipinos from OFWs and government as well. Lowered the debt to GDP of the country to about 30%. Created this kind of environment for President Pinoy from 2010 to 2016.
ちょっとね、エクスペリエンスですね。だからまとめると、この辺のラモスさんとかこの綾野さんがやってる時はフィリピンの人の所得が増えたらしいですね。それは一つはやっぱ OFW がすごくやっぱり送金が多くなってきたっていうことと、でそれによってフィリピンの国の負債のね、debt GDP ratio getting down 35, currently 65. そのGDP 国のね負債もねすごい 35% まで減っていったんですね。今は 60.4% ですよね。Okay.
So that was it. So it started in Fidel Ramos where he attracted a lot of investors by opening the banking industry.
そうか、ラモスさんの時は結構ね外資をねこの銀行financial
banks. That was when a lot of the banks came in, a lot of foreign banks came in.
ラモスの時は金融を自由化して結構海外からね銀行なんかも入ってきてフィリピンにお金が集まったっていうことですね。
And Asian financial crisis created a consolidation, deleveraging in the Philippines. And business, both the private as well as the public, were very conservative in borrowing money. That it lowered the debt to GDP of the entire country to as low as 39.6.
What Asian financial crisis?
Asian financial crisis, 1999-2000 to up to 2004. Sorry.
This is the peak.
It's the peak.
そうですね。ピーク70。これ GDP と負債の比率ですけどね。ちなみにね、in Japan 224.
In the US is 140.
So Philippine finance is much better.
That's right.
その後ね、この70 GDP に対する負債がずっとね下がっていって、ここがね、この辺がね、lowest. This is today.
That was 2019. No, Duterte. And then pandemic.
Pandemic happened. そうですね。バキノさんからドテルテさんのところに行って、非常にやっぱり財政はめちゃくちゃね、健全でもね、30% 台なんですね。で、コロナでまたいろいろな財政出動だったので、今 60%。
So Hitoshi-san, this is we will go back to this one later because this is the situation that President Marcos is now facing. Because when President Aquino and Duterte came in, finances were very good, not much debt. But now with Marcos coming in, The question is, can he do a Ramos, attract foreign investors to come in, and have money to spend? という
ことで、今ね、こうちょっと上がってる、コロナの影響でね、このフィリピンの負債が増えちゃってるんで、まさにそれで、マルコス大統領が今年ね、大統領になりましたんで、この辺をどういうふうにね、ハンドリングしていくか、つまり要するに海外の投資をどうやって集めるかっていうのはフィリピンのね、今大きな課題になってるっていうことですね。
I guess this is part of the story, but as an investor in the Philippine stock market, especially for a foreign investor, this is what you will probably need to look at, and this is the very reason why I'm watching this space very, very closely, because if the peso strengthens,
this is the peso.
That's the
peso and dollar
versus the dollar. This is inverted Hitoshi-san. So
this is weakened.
It weakens.
This is depreciated.
Yes, this is different. So you will see that from the period after the Asian financial crisis, when the leveraging happened, economy here in the Philippines, that's the PSEI.
PSEI.
That's the PSEI. You can see that there was a recovery from Asian financial crisis.
じゃあちょっとね、I can explain about this graph. これのグラフはですね、これがペソとドルの為替ですね。だから今ペソがずっと下がってるっていうね、状況で、上の、グリーンのこれはPSEI ですね。フィリピンの株のインデックスのパフォーマンスですね。はい。
So you can see that after the Asian financial crisis, there was a recovery. Same in the US after the tech bubble. And you can see that that rally was supported by the strength of the peso.
なるほど。ここはだからアジア経済危機がその後回復していったんですけども、フィリピンペソが上がっていったんですけどね。これは、
That's why I would just have to say that the reason why we felt that this was a good and healthy correction for us, because when that happened, it prevented the Philippines from over-leveraging. And we thought that that was just an interruption to the growth that we were experiencing. Earlier, I showed the chart of OFW remittances that served as the purpose of the consumption-driven expansion in the Philippines. Now you can see that after that correction, safety, flight to safety to the dollar. After that, the peso strengthened once again. Up to 2013 during the time of Pinoy Aquino.
So it looks like PSEI performance and FX movement kind of almost weak.
Yes.
But now the movement is reversed. Yeah. What's happening?
That's a very good one, and I think this is the reason why we have to watch this space very closely, and this will be our story for 2023 to 2024, especially when Powell stops increasing interest rates. But of course, Marcos will also need to do something. In 2013, during this run-up, GDP was very strong. So that was up to 2013.
GDP がね、
going back to here. Those were the best times. 7.3, 7.15. Debt to GDP was also low. There is another graph that I would like to show here in terms of current account balance. Philippines was also very strong. It's right here. Current account balance. So here, Philippine Stock Exchange Index. This is the dollar peso again, the one earlier, right? You can see that during the time, the current account balance was positive. Current account balance, that's the total of exports minus imports.
Export minus import.
So this.
So meaning that the import is bigger than export.
It's bigger than export.
Minus.
That's why you will notice, Hitoshi-san, that during the time before the great financial crisis in 2009, Philippines was running a surplus, exporting more than importing.
これのグラフは貿易収支ですね。プラスってことは輸出の方が多くて、マイナスになってるってことは輸入の方が多いですね。だからこの辺が、ここは がピークね。
The surplus peak.
What's happened?
Since the time, there was of course a flight to the dollar. There was a flash recession in 2009. There was a global recession, but Philippines declined for just 1 quarter.
Okay. 2009 is a rebound crash.
Consumption was nowhere to be found during that. But Philippines stayed on balance. Exports equals imports. So it was good. And then the rally happened. This is from 2009 up to 2013, which was the ultimate peak in the index. Sorry. This is Philippine Stock Exchange versus the S&P 500. It's a ratio.
A ratio.
Ratio.
PSEI
Over
SPY 500.
Aye.
This green line.
That's the
グリーンライン、この緑はこれはあれですね、PSEI と SP500 の比率。So meaning that this PSEI
was very strong versus the S&P 500. And you can understand why. It's because of the dollar. Because during the time, Philippines was the next net exporter. We were getting a lot of dollars.
I see. So Philippine peso was strong.
Yes.
In this time.
And then starting 2013, 2014, remember taper tantrum in the US? That was the first time when Bernanke, I think, said that they will start to take money out of the system, what they call the quantitative tightening. And they never increased interest rates until here. So that started this is the story for the Philippines from 2012 up to 2020. This is now the PSEI.
The current situation is weak. The market also weak.
That's why the market is like this. It's flat.
Market flat. Peso down. Peso up. Now peso down. Market.
It's just there because earnings is still growing, but the sentiment is bad. From foreign investor, if I convert my dollars to peso, but I know that the peso is weak, I know that I'm going to lose money. So might as well not put money in Philippines until such time that the peso is stable.
So, in summary, for foreign investors, you mean weak peso is good?
Weak peso for foreign investors? Weak peso is not really good.
Now it's weak peso, right?
Now it's weak peso. Weak peso is not good for investors.
Well, weak peso is good.
I mean, during the time. But what I'm gonna say is, if you can look where the turn is, if you know where the turn is, when this will happen. So if it stays like this, that's good for investors because you will see that things are improving. Weak peso is good for investors. Weak peso is good for tourists.
So what the situation? So current situation.
Okay, so this is the situation now. The only question is, so we are now in a very big correction. Right now, the sentiment is very negative for Philippines, mainly because of interest rate increases in the US. So it will now be dependent on what, after this normalization of interest rates, I think the growth story of the Philippines should continue. With that, I would just like to show what ADB sees as far as growth numbers are concerned. GDP growth. This was their forecast in April. This is their forecast in September.
This is actual.
This is in 2023. Forecast of ADB in 2023 as of April. ADB, Asian Development Bank.
This is true. Both of them are forecast.
Yes, this was in April. This is in September.
September.
For 2022.
So they increased.
Increased.
Even such a not good situation. ADB's forecast getting up.
Yes.
But why?
Here it is, Hitoshi-san. The situation, the one that we were talking about, the situation has not been good in terms of the currency since 2013. But that correction has been for 9 years already. And earnings keep on growing, and as I've said, for as long as we can go back to that growth story, and the reason today is because of reopening this year. Next year, schools will be one whole year.
Could you show me again?
Okay. For ADB, this is their forecast.
ということで、ちょっといろいろあるんですが、ちょっと為替の話が中心になっちゃって、ちょっとまたもうちょっと産業の方もまた聞いていきますけど、いずれにせよですね、フィリピンの経済成長率、これからね、22年、3年と、6.6% の中盤ぐらいというふうに、専門家はですね、アジア開発銀行ですけども、見ているというところですね。はい。Okay.
The secret, Hitoshi-san, that I would like to show here is after the pandemic, Philippine growth should go back to this level right here. Preferably, if it can grow something like this during Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo's time, we're in maybe because of the costs, crude oil, importation costs, and whatnot. Maybe it will look something like this. But what is important is we go back to the growth level, especially if we think of this pandemic. If we can stay at the 6 to 6.5% level, then that should keep the country growing.
Okay, so the Philippine economy go back to the 6.5%, around 6.5% growth in this year.
This year, possibly, and then maybe next year, another 6 to 6, maybe 6 to 7. 7 maybe a little bit high. Maybe 6 to 6.5 should be okay.
大体これからですね、コロナも明けてきて、フィリピンの経済成長がね、また 6.5 ぐらいに戻ってくるだろうっていうね、予想になっているんですね。はい。
So one last thing, Hitoshi-san, before we leave this discussion, I would just like to show that all of that, after I've shown what happened during the sideways, Philippine market has become cheap and we are still growing. Okay. Now, the next question, I suppose, is when it comes to one more projection, and this is coming from Anton-san.
Yeah.
His projection.
Economic.
So I would just like to share this because this is the most conservative view. In 2022, growth is about 6.8. That's our forecast. In 2023, he thinks it's probably going to be 4 and 4.5.
This is a forecast by ABCAP.
By Anton-san.
It's really only 4, only 5. It's much lower than ADB.
Yes, that's right. And what I would like to show here is that this is what I'm saying, that the Philippines is very attractive, especially if you look at it on a 2 to 5 year horizon. Because as you can see, we are there, and then the peso, if it can consolidate,
peso is
stable,
stable.
After the 7 pesos depreciation this year, it's forecasted to stabilize to about maybe 2 pesos over the next 2 years. I think for foreign investors, what you need is for the peso to just be stable and not be sharp. Imagine for a foreign investor, you know that you can buy more pesos for a very long time, and you're not afraid that you're going to lose by 5 pesos. Then for an investor, I have to buy property. I can invest there.
It's really
that is his projection, and there are a lot of. I would just like to show that projection for conservatism, but the forecast is anywhere around 6 to.
This is weak. Big number is weak.
Big number is weak.
Okay. はい。これAB キャピタルのアントンさん、社長のアントンさんのね、フォーキャストになりますね。ちょっとね、かなり控えめな数字だと思う。ADB がね、6% 以上のね、成長だったから。はい。Okay.
So, these are the So with the Philippine stock market maybe going sideways, but it's cheap, it just won't shoot up. So for some of our investors who are there for 5 to 10 years, they can continue to buy the quality names. Metrobank, BDO, even Finma Corporation. And then during these times wherein the whole economy is not yet strong, we think these are the sectors to be invested in.
What do we see?
Oh, okay. So this is the investment clock, the business cycle.
Okay.
Overinvestment.
Yes.
Overinvestment means that these are the sectors that still need to correct because there are a lot of players.
This is the current situation.
The current situation.
でこれはこの表は多分ですね、今どういうセクターが買いでどういうセクターがちょっと高すぎるとかそういうのでちょっと表している表ですね、これね。はい。で、オーバーステートメントっていうのは、オーバーバリュー、you mean?
Overinvestment means there's a lot of players.
Lot of players.
Which means that competition is tough.
Competition is tough. ここはオーバーインベストメントっていうのは要は競争がね大きい、つまりプレイヤーがいっぱいいるっていうことで銀行とかこの辺ですね。
Like Converge. Converge is Converge, Globe, PLDT, and Vito. There is a player who is trying to drive down prices, so it needs to consolidate.
So this situation is not good for investment, meaning that many players congested the market.
So this. So during this situation, the reason why I'm showing this Hitoshi-san is during our next discussion, we should be focusing on these names. This one, I think from here up to here.
Attractive.
はい。
で、この辺が今だから投資にアトラクティブなのはこの辺で、コンソリデーション、カズイノの C ストア。What is C ストア？
Convenience.
Convenience store ね。
Good. Just like in, it needs to get smaller. Some stores will still need to close. Not yet.
Not yet ね。
Casinos, this is very interesting because I think in 2011, there were a lot of licensees. You now have Tiger, you have Anditan, you have Melco Resorts, and you have Enrique Resort. But recently, Enrique Resort has been buying a lot of licenses. PHR of Dennis Uy. He also bought another PHR resort in Clark. So most of the licenses are now under him. And then Tiger is an issue.
Consolidation. So how do we understand?
Okay. So like for example here, since there are a lot of players,
congested, busy market, crowded,
very crowded market.
Okay.
So they are squeezed in this room, and some of them will need to go out of the room. Some of them will continue to fight because they are very good. But for those people who don't have the capacity to play, meaning if they don't have the money or the skill, they will realize that I cannot take the losses.
So income ratio is getting down.
Maybe revenues are maintained, but the margins are getting lower.
Not good for investment.
This is a very challenging environment, and because of this you can also look at it from the perspective that this is when the players realize that I cannot money here, and because of that, they either leave, they sell to the consolidation, or they close business.
Consolidation means they combine together.
Smaller. The number of players becomes smaller.
Becomes smaller.
But
casino market is getting bigger.
A smaller market is better because if it is just two of us competing, I'm going to talk to Hitoshi-san. Let's not drop prices anymore.
I mean that less player.
Less player.
Attractive. Companies not there are many.
They closed. Some of them closed during the pandemic. And then the Family Mart, which is now owned by Dennis Uy. Dennis Uy is in trouble.
ここはだからまあプレイヤーが少ないよね。ということでまあ魅力的。Under investment.
So like in this case, Hitoshi-san, like banking, IMG closed, Citibank sold.
Oh, yeah.
So that's an example of where. So going back to the more interesting part, and these are also the sectors that can benefit from President Marcos's administration.
ここがマルコスさんのからお受けるセクター
Especially
で、
this
電力とセメントと鉱山と教育ね。
powers, because the important players now is Aboitiz, very close to the president, and a lot of power companies are now expanding into renewable energy. So that should be very good, and there should be some tax incentives, and also the DOE is asking Meralco, for example, to get more power from renewable sources.
なるほどね。はい。ここはまあthis is getting the benefit from the Marcos administration, basically.
Yes, and at the same time, so cyclically, it's also at a good time. The best part is there is a catalyst, and this is where there's a motivation to really promote these sectors.
まあ、電力で、例えばこれアボイティスパワーです。アボイティスパワーはマルコスさんとすごい近いっていうことでね、結構ね、今注目されてる。はい。あとまあいろんなあれですね、クリーンエネルギーで、どんどんね、いろんな税制の優遇だとかね、いろんなことでまあいわゆる政治の後押しもあるのが電力。はい。セメント
Cement is for PPP, Public-Private
PPP。
Partnership.
ああ、yes。なのでセメントはまあマルコスさんで PPP をどんどん推進していくって今言ってますからね。それでやっぱりセメントの需要が増える。で、what is the company in cement?
There are four. FINMA is one.
FINMA ね。
FINMA Corporation is one. Eagle Cement
はい。
of San Miguel.
サンミゲル。はい。
Eagle Cement, San Miguel, and then there is CHP, Cemex, Cemex Holdings Philippines, and Holcim. Holcim,
ホールズ。
HOLCIM.
はい。まあ、セメントの銘柄もね、イーグルとかね、フィンマとかね、ありますので、ここも PPP 関連でいいかも。はい。
Mining is, of course, the family has mining assets.
ファミリー、マルコスファミリー。Okay.
I think the brother-in-law, they have a lot of mining tenements in Surigao. The Romualdez, sa name of Bongbong, Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos.
マルコスファミリーオンだ。マイニング。マルコスのね、ファミリー結構鉱山を持ってるっていうのもあるんで、鉱山はまあ有力なんじゃないかと。
So something maybe we can talk about this more later on, but remember that before the Duterte stepped down, they're trying to fix now the regulatory issues in the mining sector. Remove the moratorium, meaning new mining permits can be given. Open pit mining is allowed.
Open pit mining is allowed now. By Marcos or
By Duterte.
まあオープンピットって何ですかね、こう露天掘りですね。露天掘りずっと禁止されてたんですけど、それもねできるようになったっていうことで、まあ国としてやっぱりこうマイニングをね促進していこうと。はい。
So it's the new mine sites that would be very good. And for this, our picks for this one would be Apex Mining.
Apex Mining.
Apex Mining. We will come out with the initiation coverage soon. Nickel Asia is one to consider as well. And Felix Mining.
あとフィリックスマイニングとかね、そういう会社が入ってますね、ここね。
And Seminar.
あとセミナーね。
And then of course education. This has become a problem for Philippines, given the young population, average age of 26. This would be a significant issue, and of course education. This is the sector of Vice President Sara Duterte.
そうですか。で、教育はね、これご存知のフィリピンすごい若い国なんで、平均年齢が I think the average age 23, 26? 25歳ぐらいすごい若いんで、とにかく教育ってのはすごく重要だっていうことですね。で、特にサラ・ドテルテさんってね、ドテルテ大統領の娘ですよね、が教育大臣になってて、すごくやっぱり政権としてもこう力を入れているっていうね。はい。
And then moving on,
what is the company?
For education, FINMA.
FINMA, yeah.
FINMA.
Only FINMA?
There are a lot, but
STI and something else.
STI, it's okay.
It's okay.
The thing with it, the reason why we choose FINMA is because they're able to expand faster without having to build schools. They're able to, they seem to have perfected the delivery of online, of hybrid learning.
Okay. まあ、フィンマーコーポレーションですね。がここではいいんじゃないかということですね。They are doing the hybrid classes online and real.
So they can expand also without having to buy schools or to build schools. And then what we also like, although this is something that is not something that is very big at the moment, is they can expand whatever their style is here in the Philippines. Their technique, they can expand it in Indonesia. And they're now looking to start it in Vietnam.
Oh, really? まあ海外に展開していってみて、why FINMA is strong? Is stronger than any other education players?
It seems that it's the learning style. It's the method of they say it's the method of delivery. So what they can do now is for every teacher, the teacher to student ratio is 80 to 1. 80 students to one teacher.
80 students to one teacher.
One teacher.
Very efficient. One teacher.
Very efficient. And they say the reason why they do that is when the teacher teaches the student online, the teacher can set a meeting with each student to ask them how they are doing.
I see.
So there's a good track record because 77% of their students are able to pass the board exam.
Board exam. FINMA is a vocational school, right?
It's a tertiary school. Tertiary is college. College. The focus is vocational courses.
Which field of vocation?
They're very strong in. They say they're very strong in accounting. Nursing is one. IT as well. But they also have business schools. But they're very school where there's a high demand for at the moment, which is nursing and IT. Engineering as well.
They cover.
IT is technology. And then for this one, this is more rising returns because currently there is just one player. Actually two, but a lot of speculation is taking place here.
ここはだからまあちょっといろいろこうまあプレイヤーが全然いないんですけどテレビ局ですよね。Now は
no, not even now. That's GME7. ABS even doesn't have a license.
ABS
no license.
Lost license.
But there have been some speculations that they could get another license. Villar started a TV network as well.
Villar Group.
All TV. I think all TV. No, not TV. TV5 is another. But it's not listed. TV5 not listed. All TV not listed.
Okay. What is listed?
GMA7.
GMA7. Only GMA7.
Only GMA7.
ABS lost their license, so now the only one big player.
Only one player.
The rising return.
That's why it's rising returns because here a lot of players, here just one player.
結局はだからもう実質 GMA ね。Only one big player.
Only one big player. And then finally, the expansion. The home stores. That's Wilcon. Wilcon is there. Logistics, that's Ayala Land Logistics, the only listed. Of course, Robinson's Land has a logistics company as well. Orca Logistics, a cold storage facility, will do an IPO sometime this year.
まあここはまあちょっとね事業拡大していきそうなところで、ホームストアってのはまあなんだろうな。まあ東急ハンズみたいなやつですね。フィリピンで行くとウィルコンね。
Wilcon is here.
Logistics.
Wilcon all day is there as well.
All day.
All day. Sorry, all home. All home.
All home とかウィルコンですね。で、ロジスティックスな物流、まあこれはね、アヤラのねロジスティックスとか、あとなんだ、これはアヤラロジスティックスand logistics.
Logistics. There are the logistics firm, Ayala Corporation has one. Air 21 they bought.
I heard from the Double Drum CIO. Double Drum is expanding their warehouse and logistics.
That's in Clark, I think, together with John B.
Yeah.
With John B.
Is it?
It's not yet listed. Not yet listed. It's still in a private company. But it can be considered. But I think it's more for REIT. That's what they're trying to do. It's probably for REIT.
なるほどね。はい。まあダブルドラゴンとかもね、今ちょっと倉庫とかねやってますけどね。はい。で、ヘルスケア。
And then healthcare. In the Philippines, there's really almost no healthcare. Very low investment in healthcare.
Who's that? MPI?
MPI is there. MPI, Ayala.
Ayala Hospital? Already?
Ayala has a few, and they have through Globe they have teleconsult, online consultation.
Online consultation.
But it's not listed.
Okay.
It's not listed.
The big player is MPI.
MPI and a few privately owned hospitals.
そうですね。まあヘルスケアのところだとMPI っていうね、メトロパシフィックインベストメント、ここが病院の経営とかやっていますと。
Medic, but Medic is more into
Medic.
They sell what do you call that equipment for dialysis. But we don't really recommend Medic. It's really speculation. Yeah.
So only MPI?
Only MPI. That's why it's a good space. I mean, especially if you get to talk to investors who would like to put up, maybe we can ask them, invite them to the Philippines, put up facilities. That would be pretty good. So that's the whole, I guess, the company and the sector. Given the expectation that the Philippines might just consolidate for the next 2 years, we will have to be very selective. Given the forecast, the big dispersion in forecast, there's about 6, there's about 4 in terms of GDP growth. Philippines is cheap, but it's not yet a very good state. So it will need to consolidate, and during that consolidation, we have to be focused on companies in these sectors.
GDP 成長率が6% になるのか 4% になるのかね、ちょっとそのフォーキャストはちょっと分かれてますけど、いずれにしてもですね、こういうので見てですね、やっぱりこうセクターをね、しっかり選んでいくっていうのがね、結構ポイントじゃないかということですね。
I guess to almost close this, these are the things that we are looking at as the plus and the minus to look at, especially with everything that we discussed. So BPO inflows, business process outsourcing, together with the OFWs, those will keep consumption strong. Right? So if commodity prices peak, such as the crude oil continues to go down, and if peso also comes down, so that the price of crude oil is lower, then that should be the good thing for Philippines. And I think,
this is a good thing for Philippine economy and this is bad thing for okay. これはそのフィリピンちょっと経済全体のことで、グッドシングスいいところはその BPO inflow still healthy, meaning still money from the outside coming into the BPO operation.
Yes.
Still.
Actually, the good thing with BPOs, especially with the news recently of POGOs leaving,
gone, right? They are leaving.
There's some news wherein they might be closed. Not so good for property because vacancy will continue to be high, and rent pressure will come down. Rent will get cheaper. Cheaper rent will be good for BPOs.
なるほど。ポゴっていうのは、このいわゆるオンラインカジノですね。オンラインゲーミングオペレーション。これはmainly Chinese company, right? So they left.
They're being asked to go, and they contribute only 7 billion pesos to the GDP. BPOs contribute $30 billion. That's about 15 billion pesos.
ポーが出ていって、
1.5 trillion.
ポーが出ていった分、やっぱりこのオフィス賃料が下がってるんですね。下がってるんで、そうすると今度 BPO、ビジネスプロセスアウトソーシングの会社が入ってきやすくなるので、多分入ってくると。だからちょっとシフトするみたいな、shifting from the tenant, product tenant point of view, reduce POGO and increase BPO, kind of offsetting.
In 2016, that was when POGOs came in, and there were a lot of aggressive POGOs that drove BPOs. They drove them out because of the amount of rent that these guys were willing to pay.
So basically, the shifting from POGO to BPO is a good thing for
Yes. So imagine a stronger dollar, and you still have the same Filipino talent with cheaper rent. It should be good for BPO.
あとペソ安っていうのもこの BPO をね、こう呼び込むには有利だということで、そこはプラス要因ですね。あとそのコモディティのここはここは当たり前なんですけど、やっぱりインフレがね、石油とかガスとかね、食料品も含めて、この辺がやっぱりそろそろね、ピークを打ってくるだろうということで、そこはプラスということになります。
And then finally, for deglobalization, deglobalization means that cost of production is going to continue to go up. Recently, because of globalization, some of the factories were sent to China, where there's cheaper labor, cheaper, energy as well. And then the products like the Apple and the Teslas get shipped back to the US. The cost can be low because of labor cost is also low. But given the trade war that has been taking place in China, and some of the factories are moving out of China to Vietnam, cost of production is increasing.
Okay, so this is best case for Filipino economy
and for the world.
For the world. これはwhat is the impact for the deglobalization to the Philippine economy?
Philippines, as we saw earlier, the balance of payment, the current account, we need for the export market to continue to recover. And Philippines, the latest data that I saw, exports a lot to US and to Europe. Only 20% of ASEAN production is consumed within ASEAN, while the rest are sent to the US, China.
What is the export item of Philippines? What are they?
Semiconductor.
Semicon, Semicon export to
China to US.
China to US.
Japan.
China, Japan, US. Okay. So this is what the relationship. Semicon export, deglobalization.
It's also pertaining to the input cost. So oil is one of them. If the trade war, if Ukraine and Russia will continue to have a war, if the food prices continue to go up. So for Philippines, that's not so good because countries are no longer cooperating. Countries are more protective. Like what happened in Indonesia and China, they stopped exporting their agricultural products. Philippines is a net importer of food.
I see. So in total, this is deglobalization is a bad impact for
Philippines. Because if everything closed down, Philippines will go hungry.
So I see.
But this is the situation today.
Okay.
That's the situation today. So it's just a question of will it get worse or will it get better?
The POGO.
The POGOs, that's the one that if they leave, then
it's good.
It's short term. Short term, it's bad for property, but it's good for
long term.
For long term, because imagine you have locators that are illegal money.
ポゴはここね、オンラインゲームですの、マイナス入ってます。長期的にはね、いいんじゃないかっていうね、話もあるということですね。はい。
Yep. Yes, I guess that was able to answer the 6 questions.
I want to hear more about the industry point of view. Industrial point of view about Philippines. OK、はい、はい。OK, could you, you explain the attractiveness and the current situation of the Philippines through the FX, foreign exchange point of view, and I want to hear more about the industry. What industry is strong? What industry is a driver for Philippine economy push up in a long term?
At the moment, it's still the OFW remittances and BPOs.
OFW ね。
That would be for consumption. Consumption is 70% of Philippine GDP. The OFWs and the BPOs will need to continue to grow. Currently, both segments contribute about 3 trillion pesos. That's about $30 billion per year.
So how many percentage?
Philippines generated 17 trillion, so that's about 1 out of 6. I think that's about 18%.
18% combined, OFW and BPO.
That's about 6%. Hang on.
So OFW BPOs have a
16, 17%.
70% in total of two
in there, yeah.
This is a driver for the Philippine economy to grow up.
To continue, but the one that will drive Philippine market higher is foreign direct investments.
Foreign direct investment. OFW BPO, okay.
And that will come from investments here in the Philippines in terms of infrastructure,
foreign direct investment.
And one of the sectors that they're considering now is really the mining.
Mining. まあ海外直接投資これも重要だということで Mining and infrastructure.
Mining and infrastructure. That would be the key segments. Manufacturing, yes, but here in the Philippines, everything is expensive. Energy is expensive. We need to also fix the infrastructure. But if we get to attract them, say, for example, in Clark, because it's the land there is very near the airport, then the logistical cost would be cheaper. That could be an opportunity, but not the focus of the current administration.
Okay. But
tourism is also an important.
The biggest export item of Philippines is a semiconductor chip.
Yes, but it's a small percentage of total Philippines, and the semiconductor industry is not really a high value item. It's not like it's just a part of Apple, and it's not really the finished product. So the cost, the amount of the pricing power is not there.
No, the semiconductor is not so attractive sector.
It's okay. It's okay. It's good to stay there.
Okay.
It's good to stay there.
What else do Philippines have manufacturing? Other than semicon?
You know, that's recently Nissan was here to produce cars. But they left.
Final car?
Some they assemble here. Some they just import, but I know they had a manufacturing plant. Now it's only Toyota.
But this is not the focusing point for Marcos. It's not manufacturing.
It's really mining and infrastructure.
Okay, mining and infrastructure through the PPP.
To the PPP.
Okay. Right. So in that case, Marcos government could do more ease the capital restriction.
Yes, which they are starting to do.
Currently, mining sector 100% owned is allowed. Can. Okay. Infrastructure.
I think there would be some that foreigners will be allowed to as contractors.
As contractor,
Like for example, the recent the Sangli Airport that was won by a group of foreign nationals. Sangli Airport in Cavite. So there was I'll try to remember who the foreign partner is, but it was given to a foreign operate.
100% owned by. じゃ
あ、I have to check if it's 100. Not 100. At least 40% for now.
40% ね。
40%.
はいはいはいはい。OK、マイニングプラスはいはい。じゃあ OFW、BPO、FDI。OK、so from the industrial point of view, manufacturing is not a major. So OFW, BPO, this is more
Philippines is really service.
Service. Yeah,
Service oriented.
Service oriented. Yeah. OK、OK。はい。だからまあちょっとね、製造業はフィリピンはね、あんまりね、強化してないというか、もともとそうなんですけども、やっぱ OFW と BPO、サービスですよね、サービスセクター、人材サービスね、ここでお金を稼いで、それでまあ、消費がね、で、consumption is 70% of GDP. So consumption is the biggest driver to grow economy.
So inflation will really have to go down. And businesses will have to restart so that people get into it.
はいはい。ということなんで、まあそこで消費がね、活性化、消費が 70% なんでね、GDP のね、その辺が活性化してくるっていうのは、やっぱこうフィリピンの成長モデルということになるのかな。BPO、FDI。OK。はい。ということでね、ちょっとね、話がね、結構ね、たくさん盛りだくさんでありましたけども、まあちょっとこれね、また皆さんにどういう形でね、お伝えしていくかもしかしたらちょっと分けてやった方がいいかもしれませんけど、ちょっと今日フィリピンのね、経済の現状と、そのこれからのね、成長見込みみたいなね、そういったお話を、いろんなね、角度からさせてもらいましたので、またちょっとね、こういうの皆さん参考にしていただければなと思います。今日はどうもありがとうございました。Thank you.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Long time. Yeah.